Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with yours truly, Tom Alvarez. My guest on today's episode is arts patron and volunteer, Toby Lerner Ansin, visionary founder of Miami City Ballet. It's regarded as one of the most renowned ballet companies in the world. Join me now as I go on the aisle in my conversation with Toby. Welcome to Toby Lerner Ansin. What a pleasure to finally meet you. Thank you so much.
You invited me.
Thank you so much for joining me. And you're coming to us from sunny Florida. Where exactly are you right now?
In Coral Gables.
Coral Gables. And I've been to Coral Gables. That's near Coconut Grove. It's outside Miami. For our listeners who've never been there, tell me about that community.
About Coral Gables, it's a residential community. Lots of trees. It reminded me the most of New England. I'm from Boston. And when we were looking to build a house and looked at different places, it reminded me most of home. And so we built this house, and I've been in it over 60 years.
Oh, really? Well, describe that. Is it old style Spanish architecture by any chance?
No, it's a contemporary brick house.
Okay. You said you were looking for something to replicate Massachusetts, huh?
Right, and I like the brick.
Yeah. Isn't Coral Gables, doesn't it have it's a lot of vitality. It's arts community. Don't they have theaters and cabarets?
They have theaters. They have a ton of restaurants. Most of the qualitative arts are at the Arts Center, which is downtown Miami.
So how far is it from Miami? I've been there, but I don't remember. It's been a while.
Well, it used to take me 20 minutes to go from my house to Miami Beach to the Miami City Ballet Studios. Now it's anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. That's how the city has grown.
Well, as you know,
downtown Miami you have to give yourself at least 45 minutes.
I was there recently, as you know, and the traffic was just a nightmare, frankly. That's why we took the Bright Line as we were traveling around because it was so quick. And it's beautiful, by the way. What a beautiful railroad that is, or service that they offer there, right?
Right. So that's made it easier for people to get back and forth from Dade and Broward and Palm Beach.
Well, you mentioned Miami City Ballet, and that's why I have you on. And, you know, we have a bit in common in that regard. I love ballet, as I do all the performing arts that I cover. And Miami City Ballet, I guess the first question is, why did you name, and you're the founder, and you founded the company in 1985, is that correct?
Correct.
And why did you name it Miami City Ballet?
Well, we were actually sitting around my dining room table with Edward Villela and some of our earliest board members before we had announced the company and talking about different names. And when somebody said Miami City Ballet, Edward's face lit up. And we said that will be it because it's a company that is designed after the New York City Ballet.
Wow.
And we started off as basically a balancing company.
Well, Edward Villela, you bring up that name. So for those who aren't aware of who he is, give us a thumbprint of who and what he represented.
He was considered the finest American male dancer. And he had been the major star principal dancer with the New York City Ballet. And he's basically a genius. Being able to have him come here and start the company was something South Florida never expected. And so we were very excited.
Well, talk about coming out of the gate with a spectacular splash. So tell me, how is it that you two met?
Well, I was on the Dade County Council of Arts and Sciences. And of course, I was promoting dance. And we developed a dance umbrella. And a fellow named David Eden who's from New York, but had been head of a Russian head of the dance library in Tel Aviv, became our artistic component. And he brought in various dance companies. And he brought in an evening of Balanchine with Edward. And he said to me, you have to meet Edward and you have to get advice from him on how to start a ballet company, because there's never going to be excellent dance in Miami if you don't have an excellent classical ballet company. Of course, I laughed, but then he persisted, and I thank him for that forever. And Edward Villella came to my home May 14th, 1985, to discuss how you put together a ballet company. And he sat at my dining room table, and I took notes because I didn't know how to type then. And he laid out a 10-year plan of the three legs that you needed. You needed an artistic director, you needed a board of directors, and you needed donors. And so that's exactly what happened. So when he left after 3 hours, he said, before we were talking ideas, and I said, yes, Mr. Villella, in the next few months, we're going to announce a new ballet company. And don't ask me why I said it. It just came out.
Uh-huh.
And when he left, I got on the phone and called 6 friends and said, do you want to be part of a ballet company with Edward Villella? And they said, yes, what do you want? I said, I want $1,000 from you. And they each said yes. And so with my $1,000, with $7,000, Miami City Ballet was founded. The money was used to bring Edward in and out of South Florida to meet the donor community, the business community, and the dance community. By the end of the summer, we had a steering committee. That October, we inducted a board and started having auditions for dancers. And the following October, the curtain went up. And that's the story.
That's extraordinary. Well, of course, it goes without saying you're visionary, but where did that come from? Why a ballet company?
Well, for my background, when I was a little girl, I had pronated feet that turned in. My father was a doctor, and we lived in Utah at the time. And he took me to his friend, the orthopedic fellow. And he said, and most people are putting children in braces. Don't give her braces, give her ballet lessons and she'll turn out. And I was about 5 years old. And I literally can remember holding on to the bar and falling in love with ballet. And it was a teacher, Virginia Tanner, who Jose Limon said was the greatest teacher of young children. And she just must have inspired me. And that's why I've been in love with a passionate love with ballet since I was 5 and 6 years old. And I wanted to be a ballerina.
So that's where the passion developed.
That's where it developed. And then in this community, as I was on the Arts Council and developed dance programs through that, serendipity.
Okay, so you have 3 children, did you not, with your former husband who has passed away? Yes.
Correct.
And your husband was an arts philanthropist. Tell me about him and tell us, our listeners, about him.
Well, he was a very, very astute businessman, and he supported the arts. Actually, it was after we were divorced that the ballet company started, and he did support it financially. But I can't say that he himself was a lover of the arts, but he used to say when he'd see the little girls running around at the ballet school, oh, that's a lot of little Tobys running around. And that tickled me pink.
That's wonderful. And his name was Edmund?
Edmund.
Yes. So when you started the company, you had no idea, and that's why you brought in someone like Mr. Villella to consult with you. So take me forward from that point on. What was the timeline it took you to premiere your first production?
Well, I met him in May of 85 and October of 86, the curtain went up. During that time was made basically fundraising. I would go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner with anybody that would go out with me. And as we moved along, Edward said that we had to have a theater and dates. And so I went to Gusman Hall because it was a smaller theater, which would be appropriate for a new company. And no one knew what we were doing. So I registered myself as performing on those dates. And then when I would sit down with these executive men, I would say, you have a choice. Either you give us money for this new ballet company or you have to come and see me perform. And of course, they laughed. And then I would say, I don't want you, because I was usually out with the
Mhm.
CEO or the head of the law firm. I said, but what I want is someone from your firm who likes ballet and the promise that you'll support them financially as a board member. And that's how we developed all of our board members.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of moxie that got you
I
that
don't even know how I did it. But
far.
I was like, pencil vision, we're going to do this. And it didn't
So
matter what anybody else said.
tell me why, how did you end up in Florida?
I ended up in Florida because when I was 19, I went to my mother's best friend's daughter's wedding and I met Ed Ansin and he brought me to Miami.
And how was that for you? Did you like it right off, or was it to take some time getting used to, or?
It took time getting used to because I was so involved in Boston Symphony and the other things that I did. I was at Wellesley at the time. And so I came down here, went to the University of Miami, and that was an adjustment. But by the second semester, I really knew what professors to pick. And I had some wonderful teachers. One of them, a Dr. Charlton Tebow, he said, there's no point in your coming to class. I want you to come and do special papers for me. And he like tutored me for the whole semester. And I took quite a few classes with him. And some of the professors were really wonderful.
Hmm.
I went to the University of Miami pregnant. And here I am.
Well, of course, you mentioned that you were at Wellesley. Wow, that was one of the top schools of, is it the Seven Sisters, they call it?
Mhm.
And so many well-known, prominent graduates matriculated there, including Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Was she there at the time you were there, or before or after?
Probably after.
And so, what did that education give you, that Wellesley education?
I think my major education was in my prep school, Buckingham, Brown and
Hmm.
Nichols, and Cambridge. There were only 11 girls in the class.
Hmm.
That's quite a lot of teaching you get. Wellesley gave me a lot of wonderful friends. I'm still close with both of my roommates from Wellesley. It exposed you to a lot of girls from all different levels of life and different parts of the country. And of course, the teachers were excellent.
Hmm. Was it difficult for you to leave there to go out to Miami, to school in
Oh no,
Miami?
I was so madly in love. It was, I was 20, I was, 20 years old.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
so when you got to Florida, did you jump into the arts? I mean, did you begin to see, whatever dance was taking place, theater, symphony, and everything?
Well, the first thing I had to learn how to do was to cook. My mother always told me my job was to get a good education and do my homework, and she would handle the kitchen. So didn't know how to cook. So I had to learn how to cook, and I had to learn how to take care of an apartment, and
Wow.
and I had to adjust to a new school. And once that happened, then I would go to certain things. Like I know when Judy Drucker brought ballet theater to Miami, I was active with that. And I continued taking ballet lessons.
And so
And
you saw a void and you just were compelled to fill it, right?
I think it was I wanted to see good ballet. So in order to do it, we had to create a company. So let's just
Mhm.
do it.
And so you're still involved with the company. I looked at your background materials and I see that you've been continuously a board member ever since you
Correct.
founded. So how has that been to see the continuum of growth?
It's very exciting. I think the most exciting part to me is to see young girls come into the school, watch them in their school performances, see them come in as apprentices to the company, see many of them become principal dancers in the company, and then see them go off and have other wonderful careers, some in dance, like forming other companies. There are quite a few
Mm.
companies that have been formed by our former dancers. And so there's been like a ripple effect, which
Mm.
that's what I find the most exciting. I also am so pleased that the leadership of the company and board leadership now is a whole new generation of people. I'm sort of like the abuela, the grandmother, and the historian,
The elder stateswoman, if you will.
yeah, or the
Uh,
granddaughter, or something like that.
so you talked about generations. So you've probably seen what, three generations of dancers at
Hmm.
least, right?
Yes, and some of the dancers are now teaching in the school.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really wonderful to see. We have a wonderful Ukrainian dancer. We brought in a Ukrainian dancer who's phenomenal
Oh,
during that time. And
I understand.
to see it become from 17 dancers to what it is now, which is really recognized internationally, is like a dream, you know.
Well, I looked at the roster and they represent the whole world.
We get a lot of amazing dancers from South America, and we have a relationship with a wonderful teacher in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Daughter's in the company and her very best students.
And speaking of Latin America, you and I have another connection. Tanya Castroverde Mascalenko.
I love her. I love her. She was our executive director for quite a few years. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman.
Well, she's going to be on this podcast because hearing about you and knowing that we're going to be talking, and I thought, boy, I need to call Tanya. I need to develop my Florida audience. With those two alone, I'm going to be able to network like crazy. No, I know her from her position when she was here in Indiana at the Carmel Performing Arts Center, which is, she helped to create it. I mean, she was their first CEO and president. And then she moved on to the auditorium in Chicago, which is known for dance. And then she moved to Miami City Ballet and just left recently.
She's wonderful.
Yeah, tell me about your relationship with Tanya.
Well, she was the executive director, and so we worked on fundraising. Basically, that's what I do, ask for money.
Oh boy, I bet the two of you, no one could resist the two of you. That's a power team.
Right.
She helped to create the donor base and everything at the center. And many, 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 including me, were very sorry that she left. And of course, we stayed in touch when she went to the auditorium. And I got to see a lot of major dance there as well. So
she's very creative.
And you got to know her husband, Alexei.
I met him a few times, but I didn't get to know him.
Did he operate the youth program there? It's
right, there's a youth, it's a competition.
Of course, Tanya had a background in dance. I think she danced early on. And of course, Alexei danced with the Kirov and the Bolshoi. And well, I was looking at the repertoire, and there are some 88 pieces that you all have in your canon, if you will. I mean, it's extraordinary. All of the choreographers who you all have worked with. Why don't you name drop some of the work?
Well, Twilight Thought, Jerome Robbins, of course, Balanchine. And then lately with Lourdes, she's been bringing in a lot of the contemporary choreographers to do original pieces on us or masterworks that they've had. And like in the last program, we're doing Carmen. And I hope I can pronounce her name correctly, Annabelle Lopez Ocha. We've also done a lot of Romansky. And for next year, which is my 85th birthday, the family has commissioned a piece by Romansky in my honor. And that's about the best birthday present I could ever have.
That's fabulous. Yeah. How wonderful. I will have the great pleasure of seeing a concert on the 16th. Talk about that work.
Well, I have not seen the Balanchine Walpurgisnacht ballet, so I can't talk too much about it. And then there's going to be a world premiere by Pam Tanowitz, and then La Valse, which is Ravel, which is also Balanchine. Those are the three ballets that afternoon.
And it will be held where?
At the Arch Center, downtown Miami.
Is that a center that was built specifically for Miami City Ballet?
Partially. It was built for opera and ballet. And Edward had a lot to say about the size and the floor and all of that.
I saw a photo of it. It looks obviously the architecture. Who is the architect?
Cesar Pelli.
World renowned.
Yeah. And it is very good. And then across the way is a symphony hall. So that's where orchestras perform and the New World Symphony performs.
And does Miami City have its own orchestra, or do they partner with somebody?
It's sort of our own orchestra with our conductor. It's not a formalized orchestra, but it's pretty much the same people all the time.
Well, it takes a lot of money for a ballet company to dance to live music. Have you always had live music throughout your history?
We've always had live music, except when we've been in financial problems, and that's one of the things that we've given up and have gone to tape, or design programs that just need a trio or a piano.
Go
Sometimes
ahead.
it's really, because of the world circumstances, it's harder than others to get the pennies out of people's pockets.
Yeah. Well, what's the state of philanthropy when it comes to the performing arts in South Florida right now? Did COVID have any effect on you all, or are people more
COVID had
generous or less generous?
the COVID had an effect, and it was made up by the government money that we got. So
Hmm.
we were able to keep the dancers and keep them on medical insurance. And we set up little performances like in storefronts where the people would be outside,
Oh, really?
things like that. Did a lot of creative things like that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you lose any dancers as a result of the pandemic or COVID?
I don't think so. No.
Well, that's quite a feat right there. The community continued to support you. Did they now?
Yeah, the community is really bought into the ballet, and we have a wonderful school. So you have all of those parents.
Oh, yeah, the school. I read about that, and the school it sounds highly successful. Tell me about the school.
Well, the school has over 400 students, and the upper level students do a lot of performing. And a lot of the students are in our major productions like Midsummer's Night Dream and, of course, Nutcracker. And half the company is made up of students from the school. And then many of them go on to wonderful careers with other companies.
Now, do you have scholarship students?
Yes, we have scholarship students. Most of the boys are on scholarship. And for my 75th birthday, we started a scholarship in my honor. And so I give a scholarship out every year.
And did you say scholarships for boys? Did you say
Yes.
that? Okay,
We
so
have a lot of we were lucky. We have a lot of boys. We have a program called Ballet Bus, where we go into the schools and teach ballet to little children, and the ones that are interested and show some talent, we give complete scholarships for 10 years to the company and provide ballet slippers and the shoes and the leotards, everything. And some of them have ended up in the company, and some of them ended up as the Prince and the Nutcracker. And it's been a very, very successful program.
tell me, what's the state of representation with the company? Are you attracting in your student population Latin Americans because you have a huge population in and African Americans?
And Chinese, we have a lot of Chinese.
Okay.
And we attract everything. It's really a wonderful mix.
So it sounds like there's a lot of representation that reflects the world, right?
Right. And that makes for a lot of excitement. And it's a
That's
company where everybody is supportive of everyone else.
that's
It's a
wonderful.
friendly family company.
So do you think with all of the focus, it was going on the arts, I've always felt from my point of view that the arts have always been the vanguard for change, societal and otherwise, that representation was on the minds, especially in theater, and less so maybe in others. But where was Miami City Ballet before Black Lives Matter and after?
I think we always had some Black dancers and we have Black staff. So we did put together a committee to handle all of those, not problems, but all of those ideas. And I don't think we had much problem at all.
That's wonderful.
It's always been a mixture.
And did that translate into people of color coming to see the ballet?
Yes, particularly because you have a lot of Black children in Nutcracker. So you have a lot of Blacks to that. And then that translates to their children wanting to go and see other performances. And they give a lot of free tickets to the students. And so they come with their parents.
So it sounds like you also do a lot of outreach in the community.
We do a tremendous amount of outreach. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so much I can't even, when I read the outreach report, we have a ballet bus, then we have ballet for young people where we put on performances specifically for youngsters and bring in the schools. And then we have free Nutcracker performances. And we have Explore Dance where they train them. They go in and teach for the year in various schools. We have a complimentary ticket program. Over 4,300 tickets were distributed to agencies serving community members in the Tri-County area. We have pre-performance talks. We have touch tours for the blind, master classes and lecture series. And we spend a tremendous amount of money on outreach. And that's how you build your audience.
Well, it sounds like you're a model for the country, really, in terms of, how do you foster representation and how it pays off. It can pay off.
You'll see when you bring in all these children, particularly, and they get excited about it and they tell their parents about it, there is a continuous building of the audience. And then particularly, I find that when you take ballet and you love it, so particularly these kids in ballet bus who want to be there, you have what you call the sort of a muscle memory, and it makes you feel good when you see ballet. So it's something you have for your whole life. And the parents are really pleased with it because they find it really teaches the children discipline.
Well, yeah.
We get a lot of comments from the parents how they study, do their homework better, they're more organized because they want to be ready to go to their ballet class.
So tell me, what is the state? You mentioned scholarships for boys. Is that intentional because you, like most ballet, that it's really opening up within the last, I don't know, 5, 10 years? We're seeing more and more boys, and that, the stereotype is lessening about some of the homophobic kinds of stereotypes about boys in ballet. We're seeing more and more boys and that attitude going away. Do you see that happening and that it's no longer an issue?
Well, a lot of fathers don't want their boys taking ballet, but what happens is when the boys participate in these outreach programs and they see something, a lot of them want to do it. And a lot of them can't afford it. And so having a scholarship program, we have scholarships for girls too, but it's harder to get boys into the ballet. So if you have more scholarships for boys, it makes it a little easier.
Yeah. What's the current status? Do you have a good representation of boys in the school and in the company itself?
And the nice thing is that, because the school is there where the company rehearses, they get to see the company rehearsing, and that inspires them also.
Well, of course, the world of athletics has discovered, the professional world of athletics, I know, has discovered ballet, and many places part of their training. Are you guys involved with any of the professional athletic organizations in Miami?
We have done some in the past, but what I always tell people is that you look at a basketball player and he makes the basket, he can come down any place he wants. But you look at a ballet dancer, when he jumps up in the air, he has to come down the same place today, tomorrow, and the next day. And so ballet is really a difficult athletic performance.
Well, it made me think of, I have a theater background and a little training in dance, and I remember that there was a certain fall. Dancers are trained to fall, and that,
Yes.
as you get older, you want to fall into a dance position. You won't get injured.
And you want to relax. That's the thing. If you're falling, relax.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how does it make you feel to be a founder? And how does it make you feel when you're sitting in that auditorium? Do you have pinch me moments? How does it feel knowing that you've got this legacy here?
I don't have any jaded moments. I sit there in awe of what's on the stage. And I can't believe that I was part of making it happen. But you have to realize it wasn't just me. It was all the people that helped me and rose to the front. My best quality was knowing what I could do and what I couldn't do. And I had an instinct to find someone who could do what I couldn't do. And so, I was never wanted to be chairman of the board of the ballet because I'm not really a numbers budget person, and you really have to be. And so I was able to find people in the very beginning to step up to the plate and take on those kinds of positions. And that's one of the reasons the ballet is so successful. One of our presidents, Mark Steinberg, he took 2 years off from his business and let his partner run it so he could be president of the ballet company. And he was a combination president and executive director, and he was wonderful.
Well, I've heard again from people I've covered over the years who started organizations, and they talk about it takes, quote, a village, of course, but you can't lose if you surround yourself with the right people.
That's correct. And it's really important to recognize them and give them the credit for what they're doing.
What is your current role on the board? What's your job description, if you will?
My job description, I'm on a couple of committees, the nominating committee and the development committee. And I try and introduce and always bringing new people to the ballet and trying to get money from various people and strategize on some of the major donations, how to get to these people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like the history.
Yeah, you have that institutional memory, which there's a lot of value in that, isn't there?
Well, there is because it keeps you from making certain mistakes. You know the backstories of all these people.
Do you mentor a lot of people?
I have in the past, I wouldn't say that I am now, but in the early days, and we used to call them Toby's girls. And we didn't have much money, so we had a lot of people that came right out of college. And I found that many of the girls that were active in sororities had talents that were very good for fundraising and socializing with donors and so forth. And
Mhm.
we had a group of people in the development area that I did mentor.
So let me ask you simply, do you like fundraising? And if so, what do you like about it?
But I like meeting all these different people.
And you know, fundraising is developing relationships. We all know.
Right. And I like figuring out what it is that's going to intrigue them to want to be part of the Miami City Ballet family.
Hmm. And typically,
You
what
never
is
know what
that?
you never know what that is. You have to let them talk and then you sort of figure out. And it's very good to go with a development officer and a board member.
Have you ever heard of the IU School of Philanthropy? It is headquartered here in Indianapolis at Indiana University. They codified fundraising and they teach fundraising. They even have a fundraising school where people come from all over the country and they share real-time problem solving, in classes. And I just wondered if you were aware of that, but it sounds like you probably could have been in on writing the book through your.
Well, I think what I have found is you can learn certain techniques, and I certainly have from the professional fundraisers.
Mm-hmm.
But part of it is just you're born with a certain instinct.
Mm-hmm. So I take it you're pretty comfortable in the boardroom when you've had to go approach corporate sponsors or decision makers and all.
Right. I just plow right in there. I get very friendly with the secretaries and I give
Ah,
them tickets to Nutcracker.
that's a good strategy. It's
Right.
those administrative assistants who are going to get you in the door, right?
Yeah. It makes them more friendly.
Yeah.
And
So
it brings, you know what it does? It brings new people to the ballet.
how is the theater judged by the press down there? Have you always had good press? Well, what has been the feedback of your artistic product? Being a journalist, I'm a critic myself. I'm curious.
We've had very good press, and Astaire Macaulay said we need to come back. He loved us when we danced in New York. And
Hmm.
I would say 99% of our press has been positive since the
Yeah.
beginning.
Well, it sounds like it. And do you continue yourself to take in ballet all over the country, all over the world? Tell me about your participation as an audience person.
Well, when the company goes on tour, I
Oh,
often go on tour, but wherever I go, and I've often gone to certain countries because of certain ballet performances I wanted to see.
okay. Do you go to galas?
Yes, I go to galas.
And have you guys ever sponsored those?
Yeah, we have a gala every year for fundraising.
So you bring in dancers from around the world to
No, we use
showcase?
our dancers. We use our
Oh,
dancers.
okay.
And sometimes at the gala, we have the school perform, and the gala's purpose is to raise money for the students in scholarship.
You probably just came out of Nutcracker, right? And how many
Correct.
performances did you do in December?
I think 25,
Oh
but
my
I'm not
goodness.
100% sure.
And who choreographed it?
We
Or
do the
who?
Balanchine Nutcracker.
Oh, no kidding.
Hmm.
And that's your cash cow, right?
Yes.
How many productions of Nutcracker have you seen in your time?
Well, the company is 39 years old, and we started the Nutcracker our fifth season. So that's
Hmm.
34.
Yeah.
The first year, I think I saw probably 16. And then, of course, it went down. Now I go once a year with my grandchildren. So I'm sure I've seen 100 productions of Nutcracker.
I'm sure. You guys also serve Fort Lauderdale and what else? Miami?
Palm Beach, and we also go to Naples.
So how many folks is that? Your audience is like 100,000, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you develop new audiences? Which is always, which right now is, an obsession for arts organizations because, I'm 77, so our generation, we're not going to be around that much longer. Knock on wood, some of us will be, but.
Well, I find that ballet has a younger audience than something like opera. It's really through the outreach programs and social media that we do a lot of social media. We have some very good people in our marketing department now, and it's on social media all the time, and Instagram, TikTok, all the different ones. And we try and intrigue people by how we phrase what the program is about. And that's about all you can do. I mean, we hand out free tickets to various places. We try and coordinate with other organizations, like we'll do programs with the New World Symphony, which will bring in some of their people to see the ballet, often for the first time, and our people hear the New World Symphony. So it's a win-win.
You mentioned that you still tour. How many tour dates in a given year, and where do you go?
They go to Latin America, and they go to Europe, and they go all across the United States. In June, they're going to California. They're going to be bringing Romansky's Swan Lake.
Well, that tells me that for a non-New York-based company, all major markets have companies, many, many major markets, Chicago, Boston, others. They have the opportunity to tour, but it sounds like you guys are really right up there with the finest. And so you have a reputation that is worldwide.
Right. We've danced in Paris. We've been many times to the Edinburgh Festival. We've danced in England, and we hope to dance more in Europe too.
And do those folks come and see you when they're in this country?
If it's been tracked, I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because, I mean, South
I
Florida.
do know I was in London at the ballet sitting next to some woman, and when I said that I was on my way to Scotland, she said, that's where I live, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Miami City Ballet. So, of course, we hit it off, and then she invited us to her home, and it was all ballet people, and so it was fun to be in a Scottish home and talk to ballet people, but she was very much aware of Miami City Ballet.
When I was there recently, I was on the beach, and I heard Russian all around. It could have been Ukrainians too, people from Eastern Europe. They go to Canada, Canadians too. They love Florida. So I expect, what kind of feedback do you get from Russians, the ones who created the art form?
There are a lot of Russians who come to the ballet. Most people that come to Miami City Ballet, particularly for the first time, are shocked at the level and quality of the company.
Yeah.
Particularly, and New Yorkers, will come, they'll come they're down here visiting someone, and someone takes them and they'll say, I can't believe it. Well,
you've already got a bunch
enthusiastic. The dancers are young and enthusiastic and flows out to the audience. So they're having a good time.
So are you constantly bringing in new choreographers as well?
Lourdes has started bringing in a lot of new choreographers. And everybody's really enjoying it. Some of them are fabulous. Some of them are good. And some of them I want to see again.
Yeah.
For the most part, they're wonderful.
Okay, so tell me about Lourdes. She's the artistic director, correct?
Yeah, she was a principal dancer for many, many, many years with the New York City Ballet. And we were very lucky to get her. Bob Gottlieb, may he rest in peace, the editor. He's the one that was talking to her about who would be a good artistic director at the Miami City Ballet. And then he realized she would be perfect. She was from Cuba. She was a Balanchine dancer. And so he brought her down and was interviewed by the company and by the board and everybody fell in love with her.
Oh, wow.
She's done a phenomenal job. She thinks out of the box. She's very nurturing. Some of the dancers just became so much better under her guidance. It was really wonderful to watch.
I presume that she was probably trained by the Russians, the Russian method?
No, she was changed by Balanchine. She went to the School of American Ballet.
Okay, okay. All
Well,
right.
he Balanchine is Russian, but his isn't the Russian, that kind of training. It's his own kind of training.
But she wasn't trained in Cuba because they
Oh,
have
no,
very, very good
she didn't
teachers.
study ballet in Cuba. She came here, I think she was 3.
Yeah, because
And she too had pronated feet, and they told her ballet lessons. So,
So for listeners who are considering, parents who may be listening to this program, what would you say to encourage them to put their kids in ballet school?
what I would do is when they're like 3 and 4, I would take them to see Nutcracker so they'd have a little idea of what it's about.
Yeah.
And then you say, they get very excited to get their first leotard and tights and ballet slippers. And then you have to see how they like it. Now, all 4 of my granddaughters both had to take ballet. 3 of them took 1 year and then wanted to go into athletics and stuff. And one took it until she took it for 6 years.
Oh, wow. But she didn't continue on to do it professionally or
Camp, she did take ballet and tap and all of that, but she didn't continue during the year.
We mentioned in the beginning you have 3 children. Tell me about you have 2 sons and a daughter. But first tell me about your daughter. She runs a theater company, is that right?
She had a theater company, Miami Theater Center, and she's no longer running it. It still exists, but she's no longer running it.
Her name is Stephanie?
Stephanie.
Yeah. So what's she doing these days?
Well, she's doing some writing, and she's very involved with the indigenous Indians of the Amazon.
Well, that's
the Amazon.
So she lives in Brazil?
She has a home in Brazil, but she lives in Coconut Grove.
And then you have a son, James, correct?
James, he's the one that is president of the television station. And his real love is theater. We're always going to theater, Broadway together.
So does his television station promote the arts, I presume, as a result?
They certainly do stories on Miami City Ballet.
Okay, and then
they do many things on the arts.
And then your other son, you have another son.
Andrew, he manages the real estate business.
So are you happy with the way your children turned out?
They turned out to be good human beings. The answer is yes.
Yeah. Well, I can see why. You seem to have a generosity spirit, and I think it takes that when you have to sell an intangible like ballet. You have to have a passion. You have to be able to communicate that and get people excited. And
I think that's what happened. That's what happened.
And speak from your heart.
Right.
And I've always felt that, I've done a bit of fundraising myself, and I always tell people that, you got to take your ego out of it. A lot of people are nervous about asking for money, like board members, for instance. Oh, I couldn't do that. I'm afraid they'll say no and blah, blah. They make it personal, when you talk to them about, well, no, you're really talking about the mission, and it sounds
you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the good of the community.
It's a pure motive, is it not? It has nothing to do with rejection or whatever,
One of my favorite stories is we were friendly with this accountant. And his wife loved ballet, but he wouldn't take her to the ballet. We were having dinner at his house, and I looked around, and I saw a whole lot of records. I said, well, you don't like ballet, but you seem to like music. He said, oh, I love orchestra music. I said, I have a deal for you. I will pick out the best orchestra music for that program. And you bring your wife so she can see the ballet, but you have to sit there and you close your eyes. You present her at an orchestra concert.
Wow.
Well, obviously, he peeked here and peeked there and started watching. He ended up treasurer of the board.
Being a ballet lover, you probably almost love music. So are you
Of course.
Are you a symphony sponsor?
I'm involved with the New World Symphony during times, and I've been involved with the other. But right now, times are a little harder. It's mostly with the ballet. My brother is a concert pianist. He lives in Thailand.
That's right. I was going to ask you about him. I saw that.
And he's retired, but he still has a few pupils. And so we discuss and listen to music a lot together.
So what are some of your other interests other than the ballet? Do you travel?
I have traveled a lot. I find it harder to travel now at this age. And I like staying home. I listen to a lot of music. I read a lot of books. I do things with my friends and my family.
And do you read? Are you active on the internet? What are some of your hobbies?
I don't think I have any other hobbies, but I read a lot on the internet. I read a lot of political, and I've been active politically in the Democratic Party. But I read a lot. I have on Kindle on my iPad.
Hmm. And for those who can't see this is audio only, but when we started this Zoom, we're doing this by Zoom, you have this incredible piece of art behind you. I wish people could see it. Describe it, would you?
Well, it's the screen when you go see the Firebird, Stravinsky's Firebird and Balanchine's Firebird. You have birds and plants, and it's very colorful, and you have the dome churches from like you see in Moscow, and the people gathering fruits and vegetables, and the peasants and the upper class people, and it's if you
So
have
was it painted by a Russian artist?
a lot of it came from a music box that had pretty much this on it that Lourdes' husband gave her, and then I think it was copied.
It's simply gorgeous. Before
Yeah, it's the scrim that goes in front of the curtain.
And before we started this call, I asked you if you had other artifacts or memorabilia from ballets, which you said you did throughout your home.
I have all toe shoes that have special designs on them that by the ballet, the costume mistress. I have a large statue of a ballerina, looks like Degas, but it isn't a Degas, but it's very high. I have lots of pictures, and I have sculptures and lot of books.
A lot of
Ballet books.
Isn't that great to be surrounded by art, music, and isn't that just the best? And books.
Yeah, you never bored.
No.
Always learning something new.
I really appreciate your taking the time to chat with me. I could talk to you for days about this, but I'm going to see you soon because I
look forward to seeing you and sharing.
When I'm at the.
And I invite anyone that's listening to come and see the Miami City Ballet. Or go on their website and you'll see little bits of the ballets that they're dancing. And
what is the website address?
MiamiCityBallet.org.
Well, there are so many snowbirds from Indiana who come your way. So, I also want, hopefully they're listening to this. And while you're in Miami, take it in, right?
And I'm there at every performance, so come say hi.
Yeah. Do you meet many of those snowbirds? Have you met anybody? Have you ever been to Indianapolis, by the way? I didn't ask you.
Yes, I have been to Indianapolis. The family has some property there.
Really?
I've been out there.
Whereabouts, if I may ask?
It's farmland. I don't know exactly where.
The Indianapolis area?
Yeah, right outside of Indianapolis.
Oh, okay. Well, good. So you know about Hoosier hospitality. You're always welcome here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Toby Lerner Ansin, it's been a great honor and pleasure to chat with you.
Okay. Ciao.
Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official neighborhood newsletter for 16 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.